Hi.
It's a pleasure to meet you and having you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let us start with your childhood. This is our routine. Tell us something about your personality, about your character. How did you build this personality? What made you? What shaped you? Tell us everything.
Okay, from childhood, I think back in school I was a really notorious kid. And I used to love sports.
Okay.
So my entire childhood went in playing sports in school, coming back home and playing. It was just play time all
What
the time.
kind of sports?
Everything, like whatever we had in school, I would participate in everything. Now, whether I made it or not was a separate story in the competitions, but I participated in everything.
Okay.
And then suddenly shifting to college was, I think, a little bit of an identity crisis because here I knew everybody. I walked into school and I knew people who knew me, and then suddenly you go and you don't know where you are, you don't know what you are, and sports went out of my life. So there was a blank space. And I think in a way that was good also.
Okay.
Like now when I think about it, when I think back, I think it was good because that was the time I started reading.
Okay.
Because back in school I never had the habit of reading, and because I used to be in my cocoon all the time in college, I started reading, and I think that's when I started developing a personality because I love reading philosophy books. I love reading Paulo Coelho, and of course I had my set of childhood books also, but I think that's when my personality started shaping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why did you choose interior designing? I mean, what made you choose that? Why interior designing?
That's a very controversial question. I didn't know I wanted to be an interior designer.
Okay.
So I joined science in 10th. That too was a very last minute decision because I wanted to be a pilot. Eventually I realized I could do architecture through science, and my uncle guided me towards interior design and architecture, and that's how I enrolled for the entrance exam. Made it decently enough but not very well enough to do my studies in a very good college from Mumbai. And that's when I did not want to, it's a practice in some places, I did not want to pay to the colleges or pay donations and stuff. So I went and spoke to a professor in one of the colleges in Mumbai, and they guided me to a college in Goa, which was recently opened, and it was a very good college. So 5 years of my architecture studies happened outside.
Wow.
Outside of Bombay.
Okay.
So I was in Goa for 2 years, I studied in Nasik for 2 years, and I did my internship in Chennai for 1 year.
Wow.
And I think that really molded me because there was a lot of travel, there was a lot of culture difference which you don't realize. You've always heard, okay, different cultures are different, but staying in a metropolitan city like Mumbai, you don't realize that because you have friends of all castes, religions, everything. And then you go out and you really meet people from different cultures, different religions. So that was quite inspiring. And plus we studied in one of those really beautiful Goan colleges, you know, those old houses. So as an architect, that really inspired me to do good buildings which include nature.
Okay.
So when I did my internship in Chennai as an architect, I was lucky enough to work under Mr. Gautam Sitaraman. He practices at Center for Vernacular Architecture. So there we were completely into designing with sustainable materials, with vernacular materials. And after my internship, I came back to Bombay. I started working with one of the really known firms in Mumbai. But what happened is, in a bigger firm, I didn't have the patience to sit down behind the computer and learn the process of, you know, how things work in a bigger firm, because I was always used to getting my hands dirty on sites, dealing with clients, everything. I was lucky enough and blessed to get that in my internship itself. Though there was a lot of language barrier, because I, being from Mumbai, I did not know Tamil. So I learned a little bit of Kunjum Tamil also. I don't know how that sounds. But yeah, some terms and things, and I made through that year somehow in Chennai. Came back, joined a firm, didn't work out, left. Even these big firms do give you opportunities to go on site and grow with them, but that takes time.
Right.
And I didn't have that patience. I was very restless. I just always wanted to, you know, be involved in it completely. And that didn't work. So then I quit from that firm. Though luckily I've been blessed again. in my relationships with people, I still have maintained all those relationships with my mentors from that office also. So
Okay.
till date, I can go back to them and talk to them and learn from them. And I quit from there. I did a couple of small projects on my own. And being Bombay is already saturated in terms of architecture.
Right.
And you need to have a lot of experience if you want to start designing buildings, and you need a good contact sphere, which was not available to me at that point of time. So I shifted to interior designing because that was my outlet where I could design. And when I quit and started doing smaller projects on my own, I realized that there is lots more that go, like lots of things that goes behind doing a small
Doing
project.
a small project. Okay.
It's just not those fancy things ki we've designed it, we've given it and it works. No, there is accounting, detailing, managing contractors, managing clients, learning how to get everything, pulling everything together. So that was a challenge to me.
Right.
And I did do two small projects which I cried through and somehow managed to finish them. Thankfully, touch wood, it happened beautifully. But that was the time I realized maybe I need to work for a little more time. And it's always better to learn from someone who's already structured something rather than figuring your way out.
Okay.
I mean, you always eventually do
Eventually
that,
figure it out.
but then there are already resources available around you.
Right.
So it's always better that you tap into that potential, learn what is already readily available, and then go to the next step rather than figuring out the first step itself and wasting time there. So then I had the opportunity to work with a senior interior designer from Andheri Lokhandwala, which is also in Mumbai, and I was lucky enough to get a lot of experience over there as well. And I got to work on some really big luxury celebrity interior design projects, homes, and that was a very good experience for me. Of course, it came with all the challenges. And then luckily I was blessed with a good project inquiry for a residence.
Okay.
So being the restless person that I am, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let that opportunity
Yeah.
go. So I just started doing it. And I thought I'd be able to manage, office and my own project, but it didn't happen. Eventually I was falling apart. There were 45 days I had continuously worked because I had a 9 to 5. Then I would come back and then there would be this project that needed my attention. So there were no Sundays, no Saturdays. It was just constant work. And then the breakdown came. So when that happened, I took a call. I decided to quit my job, and everything happened on good terms. Luckily, I sat down with my mentor from that office and I told him that this is the situation. And again, I was blessed where he pushed me and guided me, saying that, go ahead with it. He didn't hold me back. So even today, I have left that office with some really good memories and contacts back there. And I started working on this project, and touch wood, it went beautifully. Looking at that project, looking at that work, I started getting more references, more work, and that's how the journey began, and there's a long way to go.
So we know about your, what you are, what you're doing, how you are.
Right.
But who was that person behind?
I think my biggest strength has been my family, and the biggest push I've had in my life, or the biggest person who's always encouraged me, has been my mom. So whenever I came up with any sort of silly idea,
Like
being a kid or anything, she would always push me. Another incident I can tell you is I just cleared my 10th. And after that, as you know, we have a long break for 3 months. We have to wait for the results. And she was like, figure out a way to get your own pocket money.
during 10th?
Yes. So she was always someone who would question you and always make your mind busy.
Okay.
In some way. So at that point of time, I was involved in dancing with a couple of my friends.
Okay.
And I just came up with this ridiculous idea that I want to start dance classes. And I just went and told her. I thought she'd laugh at me. She's like, why not? And I'm like, why not? And then I was like, why not? So I met a senior friend of mine. He was a year senior and he was also into dancing. And we just suddenly went. Another friend of mine helped me get a place in the gymnasium in his building. We got the place. My friend had a lot of friends who were interested in dancing. So we went, spoke to the parents, got a team. And in no time we had a dance class up and running.
Really?
And we had 15 students. So it was a 20 days crash course that happened, and we completed the classes with at least 7,000 of profit each.
Wow.
Removing all the expenses of the place,
Yeah.
your flyers,
Oh,
everything.
that's good.
And that was such a good boost. So since then, I've always been, why not? And that is what led me. Even in my career as an architect or interior designer, there have been a lot of times where you're still figuring out things, you're still figuring out the market, you're still figuring out how I'm going to get a place, how I'm going to get my office, how am I going to get the people together,
to work, yeah.
how am I going to get the funds and everything. But then there's always that encouragement from her that there was even a time when I decided that I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do my MBA and change my field completely.
Oh, so this was when?
So this was roughly a year and a half back,
Okay.
not too long ago.
Wow.
And I sat down with her and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And now I feel that it's completely okay to be in that space.
Okay.
There are so many of us who don't know what they're doing, and then they get a little older in life and then they still feel like that they haven't done, they still feel lost. And I just want to tell everybody that it's okay to feel lost. I mean, whenever you feel lost, it's just fine. Just get into the activity you love doing the most, or the best thing is to just write everything down and to have the pros and cons so that you're emotionally detached from the situation and then you're evaluating the situation for what it is.
Right.
Or again, if you have a mentor like your mom, sit down and talk to her. And she helped me dissect everything. And then she told me that stick to this for a while longer and see how it proceeds. And I'm just grateful for, to her that it happened and I'm here today. So all credits to her.
Wow.
So I think she's that one person who's, been
through all your
yeah.
phases.
She's
of
my
life.
best friend, so she's been along all the time. Yeah.
I am really wondering of those 45 days, because generally it's not easy to quit a job and start our own. I know you got the support of the, your mentor, your mom, but how did you find that way? How were those days?
Sometimes, like now when I think back, I realize, and I know it was 45 days. Back then it wasn't. It was just one day at a time. And before you slept, you knew that you have to do this the next day.
Okay.
And then again the next day, again the next day. And it just went on and on and on. And later I realized that I had no rest, absolutely. I had no social life, absolutely. And I just got tired. I got completely tired. And one fine day I just decided that it's either this or this, because what was happening was initially everything was good, but then later both the parts were getting affected. I couldn't give my 110% at the job because I would be tired and drained, and I couldn't give my best to this project either because I didn't have the time and stamina after traveling back and forth so much. And somewhere people were starting to point that out to me. Like my client was trying to point that out to me that we're not getting to see you that much, or my boss would tell me that where are you, why are you making these silly mistakes. So that's when one day I just stepped back and I realized that things are goofing up and you need to set them straight.
Okay.
So the only way I could think out was to quit the job, because I knew what I really wanted to follow, and that was working by myself doing that project. So that's what instigated me to take the call and leave the job. Yeah.
Okay. So you are pretty straight head and confident. I can really see you in that. Now I'm wondering who is that person behind, like the way you are. It's mom.
One would be mom, yes, and second would be all the experiences I've had in life.
You took it really positively.
No.
No?
I've had my fair share of being negative in the moment, but then all of those experiences together over the few years have built up that person. So there has been a lot of hard work that has gone behind all of this also. There have been times where I've literally sat down and written out what I want in life, what I don't want, and a lot of focus, a lot of determination, and also a lot of dramas in life. Life has always been full of dramas. All of that, all of those experiences today have amalgamated together in me being this person, and now I know that I can write down of who I see myself to be and build up to that.
So this is like a kind of a therapy for you to write down things, to list down, and to segregate, you know, what is to be done and what is to not to be done.
Yes, it is.
Right.
I write it all down, and then there is a lot of thought process that goes back and forth, back and forth. I have some beautiful friends who guide me through. Sometimes when you're confused and you're not writing it down, you're talking it out. So that's when you sit down, you clear your thoughts, and I think it's very important to do that because then you know where you're headed to. Otherwise, you're just wasting a lot of time on a lot of things. That's how.
Okay. So now I want to give a moment, you know, to you, to be the raven, where you can give that message to all the viewers over here.
Right.
And so that you can fly through the sky. Please.
I think one very important message would be to set goals. I mean, a lot of us don't do that. I did not do it. I learned it the hard way. And to all the younger generations, I would say that be clear, even if it is something as simple as you riding a bike, pursuing it for a passion, or as a career, or you sketching. At that moment of time, at that point in time, you may not know where it may lead to. But I would still say go behind it, write it down, follow it, do whatever it takes to do it, and develop those set of skills at a young age. Like we being in school, I used to play a lot. Now I look back at it as it being one of my outlets for all my energy. So I think if at a young age you develop a set of skills, it could be drawing, it could be, you know, working with a computer or learning softwares, reading, whatever, nothing goes for waste. Everything is going to add value to you later in life, whatever you do in whatever way. So the two main things I would say is one, never stop learning, learn as many skills as you can, and follow whatever you really want to, because it's, even if it may not become the dream job that pays you, it is still going to become your parallel wheel, which is going to keep you aligned to life, and it's going to keep you happy. So you have to follow that. You cannot let that go for anything.
So that's a really great thought that you're ending it with. And I really wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
And you've been a great speaker as well.
Thank you.
I'm sure, you know, a lot of viewers have learned a lot of things from you.
I hope so.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much.